I've been carrying the Nitecore EDC23 for a little bit of time now, and I wanted to give you my thoughts on is it going to be the next EDC light that I'm going to use. So this is the Nitecore EDC23. It has a lot of very interesting features, and it's kind of fitting into the newer form factors that a lot of EDC lights are going to be going into. Specifically, how it's going to be a lot thinner than kind of like the tubular designs that has been pretty much the gold standard for flashlights for a really long time. There are a lot of very interesting features that I'm going to highlight, and also 3 specific things that I really wish they could change that would really bring this light to the next level for me, and why it might be a deal breaker for long-term use. Before we get into that, please consider leaving a subscription down below. The goal for this year is to hit the 100K mark, and we are definitely on the way, and I want to thank you guys for obviously being along for such a long time, all you long-time subscribers. So let's get into some of the specs, some of the features of this light, and see if it might be something you'd be interested in considering to be your next EDC light. So starting off with the buttons, there are 3 primary buttons on this light. On the left side of the flashlight, I guess depending on which side you look at it as, is kind of like a lockout switch. So this is kind of like the safety you might have on your firearm where you're able to toggle it on and off, and that's going to be able to ensure you don't accidentally discharge the light into your pants. Why does that sound like a very big deal? There have been plenty of times where I was using a light that has a very high output, and if I did not realize that it was on, it literally can burn your leg. It's definitely happened to me before. It's also happened with a lot of like streamlight flashlights that I might carry on my appendix position. Suddenly you realize everything's really, really hot. Feeling hot. And you're not really sure why. So having a lockout feature, I think, is a very great option because it does prevent that from happening. Now, it might be for some people something that like they may not necessarily want, because if you want to kind of use it in a kind of a tactical situation, you might want to be able to just discharge it the way it would be able to just be done properly. But again, if you're going to be someone who's using this more for the utility side, then you're more likely to accidentally turn it on, which is why I'm not really against having that kind of like safety on. Also, if you're a fidgeter, pretty convenient.
I mean, so what if he fidgets? He's in school. Who doesn't fidget in school?
So aside from that, there's going to be 2 primary is like the main buttons of the light. There's a larger and a smaller button. Now, when it comes to these 2 buttons in particular, one of them is going to be like the full output light. So if you hit that larger button, that's going to take you the full power of the flashlight. And then the smaller button is going to be used to toggle through additional features. I'm going to go through all those features, their lumens, the times that they spend going out and all that stuff, but we're just going to go through the overview first. On the front of the light, there's actually going to be a screen that will not only let you know at what lumen you're holding at, depending on the setting you'd like to choose, it also gives you information about the battery life and other details like that. So having that really adorable screen, I think, is very valuable, because a lot of times if you're using, again, a more conventional flashlight that's just the tubular design, you don't know where your battery is holding. You often are going to switch them out just to make sure you're on top of it, but actually knowing where the battery life is holding, I think, is a very beneficial thing, and I think is a really good step in the future of flashlights where you don't need to be guessing anymore. Other side of the flashlight, there's going to be the USB-C port where you're able to use for charging. Again, I'm glad they're going with USB-C. It's pretty much the gold standard for everything we're using today, so having that as a way to be able to charge it, again, you know your battery life because you could see it on the screen, and then you're able to charge it with USB-C, which is widely available everywhere you go. So it makes this a very good light to be able to use in a lot of environments. And then on the bottom of the light, obviously, is going to be where the 2 LED bulbs are located. On the back, we have a very large clip with a little tab on the top over there, which allows you to attach a lanyard if that's something that you'd like to do. And then in the case, it does come with this lanyard right over here that you're able to use if you want to carry it in that way, as well as also the USB-C wire to be able to actually charge the flashlight. That's what comes in the kit. Now, when it comes to specs, I'm not going to even act like I memorized all the specs.
Smart move.
I want to go through some of the light outputs that they offer, as well as the time that the lights are going to be able to last for. So this flashlight claims to have a 2500 lumen max output when you're using the full power button. So we said that button right over there. Now, here's going to be one of the things that kind of I wish would be able to be switched around. This does have programmable settings where you could choose different light outputs you want to be the initial one to be put out and all the other stuff. But the way they designed that this large button works is that one press is going to be, a half press. If you half press that button, it's going to be the full 2500 lumens that they advertise. If you do a full press, it then goes into strobe mode. So half press is going to be, 2500, full press it goes into strobe, which is going to be something I wish I would be able to, if it was that button, I just wish that button would be just the 2500 lumen output, because if I'm using the full button, I don't want to distract myself, especially under stress. If I'm using this for something that I want to be able to identify, if I end up over pressing and suddenly goes into strobe, I feel like it would be inconvenient.
He kept fidgeting around.
So I wish that was able to be programmed out, just because strobe is something I would very less likely to use versus the full 2500, which is a very nice clean light. I really do like the light of it, but again, I want to be able to have that as my primary option. Now, what's interesting is that the 2500 lumen option is very bright, which also means the flashlight gets really hot. It gets really hot.
Is it hot in here? It's hot.
So much so that on the actual back portion of the flashlight, there is a warning sign right over there. Let me see if I'm able to get that clear for you. That pretty much warns you that, again, this is going to be extremely hot at the touch. Now, on top of that, it won't be able to maintain that 2500 lumens for a long time because, again, it gets very hot and that output is really high. So when you actually activate, let me just make sure I'm in the screen here. When you actually activate the 2500, you'll see that on the screen, it's notifying you that it's 2500. And then you kind of see like a power bar that it's going to start getting lower and lower until it starts to drop. So it just dropped in its lumen output now because it's not able to maintain that 2500 lumens for a significant amount of time. It doesn't state on the paperwork exactly how long that is, but you do see that progress bar of how long it's able to do it. Now, if I were to do it again, it hasn't been a very long time. It does go back to the 2500 lumens. And then again, you see I half pressed there. I went into a full press and went into strobe. Not ideal. That's going to be something that I wish they would be able to program out. So the max turbo mode is 2500 lumens. It doesn't mention how long that's going to last for. And they say that it's able to project to roughly 280 meters. This light, again, is more in my head a close quarters / utility light. The reason why is that it doesn't really have a very defined hotspot. So just to give you a quick overview, lumens is kind of like your general lighting that you're going to be getting out of a light. The candela, which is another measurement, is going to be the center hotspot of the light. And that's usually what's able to reach out really far to be able to use to identify if someone's holding something, you could see things a little bit better. So that's usually the kind of measurement a lot of tactical guys are looking for because that gives us a better understanding of how far it's able to go. Again, based on their paperwork, they're saying that the turbo mode is going to go roughly 280 meters. Then the high mode, so that's 1100 lumens, is going to last for 1 hour and 30 minutes on that mode and is able to do a projection of around 185 meters. Then they have the mid mode, which is 200 lumens. It's able to go for 3 hours and 45 minutes, and that's able to have a projection of around 90 meters. The low mode is 65 lumens, 11 hours of runtime with a 50 meter distance projection. Ultra low, which is 15 lumens, 39 hours of runtime, 24 meter projection. So that's going to be the basic specs of the light output. Now, the way that it works, if we're going to go back to the button design, is that the button that's protruding, again, this is another thing I wish they would have done. I wish the serious use button, the turbo button, was the one protruding because that's more likely what I'd be able to grab and just use under pressure. So that would be another thing I really wish they would be able to swap around or just program a little bit differently to allow you to have that option. So if you're going to use this button, when I click it, that click is going to show me again the battery life first. And then if I click it again, I'm able to then go through the options. So that's 15, and then that's 65, 200, 1100, and then back to 15. Again, you just go to the other button if you want the full turbo mode. So the reason why that's cool is that if you're about to look into your mailbox at night, you can just toggle and make sure you're on the lowest setting because you don't want to just put 1100 lumens into a tiny box just to find out that you can't see anymore. So I can just toggle through it. So these are half presses. And then when I do a full press, it will go to that mode which I selected. So I can just toggle through. It gets brighter and brighter as I toggle through. And then it also has a memory setting, which means, let's say I stick to this mode and I like it, I turn it off. So I do a full press to turn it off. If I full press again, it will remember the setting that I put it on and it'll go back again. I can just half press to be able to go through the other settings that I prefer. Now, when it comes to dimensions, the length of this light is 4.05 inches. The width is 1.3 inches. The height is 0.89 inches, and it comes in at a weight of 3.56 ounces. So this is a very lightweight option, and I really do like the design. Again, the main things that I feel would be very beneficial for them to switch would be the options of which button is going to be your primary. So I want the turbo button to be the one protruding because that's gonna be the one I would need like right now. I could toggle through the other one if I'm like less stressful. It's more of a utility light. I understand that. So I'd really prefer that. I wish there was the option to switch between where I want the strobe to be as opposed to being right as a full press on the turbo selection. Again, that's not something I prefer. The other thing I really wish they did is I really prefer a deep carry pocket clip. This right now, if you're wearing it, it really protrudes up. So from here and up, all that is sticking out of your pants. Now, problem with that is that pretty much anything you run into, it's going to over time start scratching the light. So you might see on the body of the light, every now and then there's a little scratch on the front and on the back, just because I keep whacking it into stuff anytime I walk anywhere. And I'm sure over time that's going to wear a bit more. And I really just prefer that it's a deep carry clip. I don't want it to be protruding. That's just a preference of mine. I'm sure there could be different options. But again, also based on the design, it doesn't seem like you're able to choose the orientation of the light. It's just kind of like a one and done design, and then you're stuck with what that is. It's also IP. It also has an IP54 rating, so it's not the highest rating when it comes to like weather and things like that. But again, I think for most people, it's going to be totally sufficient for what they're doing. Lastly, on the sides of the light itself, they added this grip texturing, which makes you feel a little bit more like tactile. You feel like kind of like more of the grippiness, and it does really make a difference. I do feel like it gives you a little bit more control of the light. And again, this light is tiny, so if I just put it into the palm of my hand, you can really see how small that's able to fit. I'm able to fit it almost entirely into the palm of my hand. You can see the light protruding from over there, and again the buttons on top right over there. The battery is a built-in battery that's like enclosed, obviously, so it's not a interchangeable battery. And then again, you're going to just recharge that by using the USB-C that's only going to be on the side of the light. Overall, I really do like this light. I really do wish they came out with even a different clip option that would be able to make it a deep carry, and then maybe in the future for programming be able to switch those buttons. But other than that, I think this is a really great option. Also, I think for a lot of you, you're going to be surprised about how much this costs. This is obviously going to be competing with other lights in its category of having a thinner design, but it comes in at a significantly lower price point than those options. So for what it is and for the value that it provides, I think this is well worth you looking into and getting an idea if this is something you might want to carry. I'm going to leave more information on this light in the description down below. If you have any questions or if you want to see other tests with this individual light, please feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. This is Raziel Cohen with the tacticalrabbi.com. Thank you for watching.